Welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast, the show where we help you optimize your health, fitness, and mindset on a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. My name is Maxime. I am a former triathlete, powerlifter, bodybuilder, and basketball player, and I've been vegan for over 9 years. I'm also the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, which has helped over 500 vegans from 20 different countries to completely transform their bodies and their health. I'm excited for you to hear today's episode. Let's get into the show. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I'm joined by a Fit Vegan superstar, Trevor. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm excited that we get to record today because, man, you've had an incredible transformation, kind of like we were talking about before recording. You look like 10 years younger than your age. That's crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, to this Fit Vegan program that you have offering here. So it's been an amazing journey so far, and it's been a lot of challenges and a lot of hard work, but continuing to push through and getting the results that I wanted. So I'm happy.
Beautiful. Well, I'll take only a small part of the success. I think you have good genetics too. I was like, we got to put Trevor on the cover of a Men's Health magazine. Like that's the next step forward. We gotta get you a photo shoot once you're done.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I have to thank my parents for that because I mean they're in the early 70s and they could probably pass for like late 50s. So
yeah. Good. Well, just so for the people listening, if you're on listening to audio, go to my Instagram. You'll be able to see Trevor's amazing photos. If you're on YouTube, you can obviously see it on the thumbnail. But Trevor came in. I remember our initial conversation. He came in about like 180 pounds. And you're like, man, it's like I want to lose like 20 to 25 pounds. So when I look at your stats this morning, you're down 25.4 pounds, right? So we slightly passed the higher level. So you're down 25.4 pounds. You reach your goal, and you're about 4.5 months into it.
That's correct.
Yeah. And there's a crazy difference between your photo. Again, I can't emphasize that. People that are listening to audio, go check out Trevor's photo. We got to get him a photo shoot.
Yeah, for real.
Cool. So, man, let's dive into like your journey, because a lot of people listening to this are, and I gotta say Trevor's age because I think it's a cool part. Trevor's 42. He looks like he's 32. He does not look his age. He looks fitter than most people that are in their 30s. And so, but it wasn't always like that. Like I remember initial conversation, you're like, dude, something needs to change. And so kind of like guide me into what brought you to the place of like, I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming. I'm kind of one that kind of always works and does things on my own. And probably about 6 years ago, I actually went vegetarian on my own. And at that point, I was really looking for a change because I had reached a point where I was at my heaviest. And I'm not a tall guy. I'm only like 5'7", and I had reached almost 220 pounds. And so something needed to change. So I started working more on my diet. One day just woke up and decided to try going off meat. And so counting calories and watching everything like that, I managed to lose about 40 pounds on my own. And that was probably about 4 years ago. And I knew, like in the back of my mind, I still had more in me to keep going, but I struggled with the diet to stay consistent with it. And finally, I was just like, you know what, I need help because I'm not able to get that extra little bit off. And so that's kind of what led me to you guys.
Yeah. So, and first of all, congratulations for losing 40 pounds on your own, right? I think a lot of people, not everyone is disciplined enough to do it on their own and lose that much weight, but you're able to do that. And I love that it was like wanting to get that extra edge. You're like, you know what, like what I've been doing kind of kept me stuck. Now it's time to kind of level it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what made you want to kind of like work with us ultimately? Because have you ever worked with someone online before, or was this like in your first experience?
I had worked with one online personal trainer before, but explaining to him like me being vegetarian, and he sort of designed a meal plan, but it was a very generic thing, and it didn't change. And I just don't think he had the right resources. to be able to provide me kind of what I needed. And so yes, I had worked with somebody previously. It was a good experience for what it was, but in the end, I didn't really get the results that I was hoping to get through that program. And so I admit, like before I started with you, I was a little like, uneasy, thinking like, oh, is this going to be the same thing? And ultimately, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put my trust into this. And I had seen some of your stuff on Instagram and just some of the transformations. And so I just gave it a shot, and here we are.
Now you're one of them.
Now I'm one of them. Yeah. And going vegan, I mean, my mom always laughs because she's like, the fact that I'm went vegetarian is one thing, but the fact that I've now given up like dairy and eggs and all that is, she's never thought she'd see the day, and neither did I, to be honest. So
Yeah. Was there any concerns when you went vegan? Were you kind of like, did you kind of get stuck into the whole protein conversation, not being able to build muscle? Did you like not think about that?
no, it really had nothing to do with that. It was more the fact that I just love, like, I love cheese and dairy, and not so much dairy, but it was just like, it was just a part of my diet. And I was having a hard time wrapping around my head, like, to fully give it up. But
Yeah.
over the first few weeks, it was tough initially, but having all the meal plans and that all set out for me, like, it didn't really affect me as much as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, let's get into your journey. So when you came in, again, you mentioned one of those like 20, 25 pounds coming in,
Yeah.
vegan, but kind of like it was a new structure. I understand that what we do is slightly different, right? You didn't have to like necessarily track the food. You had the recipes laid out, the workouts laid out. How was that first month for you? Was there like a learning curve? Was there an adaptation phase? How was that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was difficult. I think more so because I'm not one that spends a lot of time in the kitchen. It's not something that I really ever enjoy doing. I work different hours, so planning and making the time for all of it was challenging. Um, and so the first few weeks were difficult, but I knew it had to change. Like, I needed to form these new habits in order to make the change happen. And so
Yeah.
I do remember having a conversation with you initially, saying like, I'm just going to put my trust in you and trust the process.
Yeah. But that's the best thing you can do, right? And
Yeah.
ultimately, like I am always trying to be upfront, like there is a learning curve when you start, right? There's like, if you've never meal prepped before, like that's going to be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
They're going to cook your food. Like, okay, I'm cooking the rice. Then you read the piece of paper. It's like, okay, I got to cut these vegetables. Okay. Then I got to cook this protein. I got to put it all together. It takes you a few hours the first time.
It does.
What was the difference between when you started and now? How fast is your meal prep?
Well, I mean, now I don't even need to open up like the recipes anymore because it's ingrained in my head. Like, I know the portions, I know how much to use, and so it does get easier in time. Like, I have to admit, like, I don't necessarily always refer back to them, just because I know the amounts that I need to include, and so it just becomes second nature, really.
Yeah. Which is a good thing to have, right? But again, it's you had to go through those first few weeks of like, damn, this is rough to cook this food.
It is. It is. It's a learning process, and it's stepping outside your comfort zone and doing things that you don't normally do, right? And I think that's exactly what needed to happen in order to get to where I am.
Yeah. And ultimately, if you want to be a fit and healthy individual, there's two options. You either have to learn to prep your food and stay on track, or you pay someone to do it. But you have to be in a very different financial position to get someone to do that for you. So most people have to learn how to prep their food and cook their food and kind of organize it. So I'm happy you went through that. On the exercise part, like, would you consider yourself someone that's like super active before, and then we kind of just changed the structure? You're not working out. This was new. Then there was a new type of workout.
So having the structure was great. It's not something that I had. I've always been active in the gym in some capacity. Actually, leading up to starting with you guys, I had almost taken like, I think it was about a 6 or 7 month break from the gym where I was just like, I just felt I was almost done. Like I just wasn't enjoying going to the gym because I wasn't getting the results that I was wanting to get. And so I just took a step back. So yes, I've been in the gym for years, but having the structure from the plan and having the actual workouts to follow, and it was actually a lot less. I'm actually grateful for it because the workouts that I'm doing now, they weren't necessarily as intense as some of the workouts that I was doing in the past. So I was in the gym for shorter periods of time and, doing not minimal, but less exercises than I would have in the past. And, not having to think twice about it was great.
Yeah. And you got better results with less exercise, ultimately.
Yeah, which blows my mind still to this day.
Right. So a lot of people go into it are like, I just need to go harder. I need to go hard on my calorie deficit. I need to go hard on my workouts. Longer is better, more sets, more reps, more exercises. And then what happened to you is like, it's very common amongst people that are trying to improve their body composition. It's like, man, I'm doing all this effort and like nothing's changing. And it's really demotivating. And you're just like, well, like, why? Like, why continue? Because I'm putting out all this effort and nothing is shifting.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I was leading up to starting with you guys, because I was just feeling defeated.
Yeah. And so I'm happy you bring that up because I've spoken to a few people recently. They're like, well, I'm just going to like try on my own, go to the gym and kind of like work out. And I'm like, if you have no structure, I promise you're going to be stuck. Like there's not going to be any changes. The reason we're able to make such great progress is there was progression built into your plan. Even though there were long workouts like you were doing before, they were efficient workouts and that's why they worked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what too, sorry to interrupt. Like that's what I love too about this program is that like it's all set out for you. Like everything is already set up. You just follow it. You have all your workouts that have instructions, your sets, your reps, your video descriptions if you're unsure of the exercises. Like it's really foolproof. Like it's great.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that because that's trying to do is make it foolproof, right? You just show up and you just got to do the thing, and then ultimately do the thing, and you get the result you want.
That's it. Literally, just show up. Like you really thought of everything when you designed this. So I'm really grateful for what you've done.
I appreciate that. And one question I have for you. So obviously, in my head, when I explain it, like I built it with that in mind. Right? Like, how can I make this foolproof for people to succeed? But then there's always the expectation when people start, and potentially you had the same, that like every time I step on a scale, the number will be lower than the previous time I stepped on the scale. And this expectation that it will always go down, right? The expectation that you're going to be able to do all of your workouts. So you're going to be able to stay on track with your nutrition 100% of the time, right? Which we both know now, you haven't gone through it, that it's not the reality. So how did you have any specific moments you're like, man, that was rough, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, like when I first started, like it was a gradual decrease. But I do remember getting frustrated, I think, with the amount of food too that I was initially consuming because it was a lot less than I was used to. And I was like frustrated mentally. Again, something that I just had to work through. What was the other part of the question you asked? Sorry,
No, it's like, what were some of the main events that kind of came up as you're going through your journey? They were like, man, that was a really rough part, and like, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I guess too with the weight loss, there were some weeks where the scale didn't fluctuate, and like I had been killing it.
Yeah.
And it was hard not to get defeated or, kind of want to throw your hands up and be like, ugh, this isn't working. But a lot of it was just the mental thing in my head that just said, you know what, just keep pushing. Like, just keep going. Trust that, next week is going to be better. And it was like, as I continued on, whether it was a pound, it was 2 pounds, 3 pounds, or I stayed the same, things changed because even just looking at the pictures from one week to the next, you could just see the changes that were happening. And so that was the motivation as well to just keep going.
Yeah, because again, you lose 1 pound of fat, you gain 1 pound of muscle. That's a 0 pound change on the scale. But like you
Yeah.
said, when we look at your photos, a significant difference. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because that mental component is huge and what throws most people off and gets them
Yeah.
to stop. But when you think of it, when we first spoke, I'm like, Trevor, it's going to take you 8 months. We're going to do fat loss. We're going to do reverse dieting, right? And so a lot of people, when they get to the scale on 1 week specifically, the weight didn't drop, I'm out. I'm like, nah, I told you 8 months, right? Like, let's just go through the whole process. And I promise you, we're going to get you there. But I get it. It's the human brain of like, no, I want to see the number lower, because especially if you've been crushing it, it's more disheartening than if you haven't been crushing it and it doesn't move on the scale.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I've been at the last probably 4 to 5 weeks, maybe. Where I mean, I'm also content with the weight that I've achieved, like the weight loss I've achieved, but the scale has kind of been staying the same for me. And
Yeah.
when I sit on it, like I do feel frustrated, but at the same time, I'm like, my body composition has changed completely. And when I,
It's crazy because I do have your graph here. I want obviously won't show it on screen because it's an audio, but you had 2 moments where you hit the same weight, right? I think you hit like 154.8 on April 29th, and it went
yeah,
up a little bit and you're back down. But your photos from April to now, there's a significant difference in shift in body composition.
yeah. Huge. And now, like, especially too, like, I have to think about it as well. Like, I'm pushing heavier now than I ever have before. And so, I mean,
And
I
you're
don't
in a
know.
deficit.
Yes. And I'm in a deficit as well.
Yeah.
So the weight is still staying the same, my body weight, but the structure and the definition and the tone and everything that's coming. And I'm sure there's a little bit of, muscle mass being put on as well.
Yeah.
I'm not letting the number deter me from keep moving forward.
Yeah. Which again is a great place to be. And also want to explain, like, when you started, it kind of like when most people start, they have more weight to lose. So the
Yeah.
more weight you have to lose, the faster it comes off. The leaner you get, the slower the fat loss is. Because then you're usually just fine tuning the small little details at the end, right? And you don't have as much fat to lose. So the body's also more resilient to let go of it, because you're
Yeah.
getting to a leaner level. Your body's like, hey, dude, we like a little bit more body fat because we want to be able to like survive for a long time in case you go into famine. So the
Yeah.
body has a bit more resistance to it. But that's the cool part, because a pound change now, if we drop you off 1 pound now, will make such a huge difference in your physique compared to when we lost 1 pound when you started. When we lost 1 pound when you started, you couldn't even tell the difference in the photos,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Right. But now you can see a pretty big difference. So I'm happy to share that, because at the end of the day, it's a tough journey, right? It's not an easy journey. There's a learning curve to it. There's going to be moments where you're frustrated. There's going to be moments where you're working hard and your body is like, you know what, dude, I don't want to lose this week. And the scale just stays the same. So what were some of, like, I'll just grab your three biggest one. What were the three biggest tools that you got access to that kind of helped you to kind of push forward to be where you're at now ultimately?
Well, I think the number one is actually having the app with everything laid out daily. So it's like my accountability to myself and also like to my coach, where like I have certain things that I have to focus on each day and I need to hit these targets. So that's one thing. Two is the actual coaches themselves, like having access to um, Joey, who I'm working with, and any questions or concerns or frustrations or anything like that, to be able to communicate that to him, and then for him to be able to come back and give me a response and sort of walk me through things, help to ease my mind, and sort of give me that motivation to keep pushing.
Yeah.
The third thing that I love the most is like the community that you created with access to all the other members who are all along on the same journey. And it's a different path for everybody, but like, being able to relate to somebody else who is going through this, and it's really motivating to be able to just show a picture or read somebody else's message, and just to have it's kind of like that like-mindedness of somebody else going through the same struggles that you are, and so it makes you feel like you're less alone on this journey.
Yeah, it makes the world of a difference to have that like-minded community, because like you saw, like some people comment, some people don't comment, but there's always someone that, like, if you're having a down day, someone posts something like, that made me feel good, now I'm gonna go and work out. But you
Yeah.
don't know, like, for a fact, some people have messaged me because of you to, like, dude, Trevor's transformation, like, super inspiring. Like, there's days where I don't want to go and work out, and I see Trevor's post, like, I just go and work out. Right. But you don't know that impact because it's behind the scenes, right? So just for you to know, I'm telling you live on a podcast.
That's amazing, and that's what's great. Like, it's nice to be able to inspire other people, and it's kind of happening in my own life too, because I haven't seen people in a while. I've sort of really pulled back the last few months to take this time to focus on myself, and so when somebody sees me and they see the progress and they want to know more, and it inspires them to want to work out or do something different, and if I can do that for somebody else, then that's great.
Yeah, people are attracted to greatness, right? So if they see kind of where you're at before and there's your higher level of greatness than where you're at, like, what have you been doing? And I don't know if you noticed that yet, but some people will come to you, and that's kind of like the easiest way to kind of plug eating plant-based. Because if you
Yeah.
go to someone like, you should eat plant-based, versus when you get in shape, like, how'd you do it? They're like, dude, I eat plant-based. And they're like, really? And then they're way more receptive to it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot, and I have to be honest, like there's a lot of skepticism too with a lot of people. And
Yeah.
so instead of saying much, I will actually give them some of the food that I eat.
Yeah.
And when they have it, they're shocked at how good things can actually taste, how filling a meal can actually be like, and and especially like family and friends, it's kind of changed a lot of their opinions. So
Yeah. Got it. So curious, what were some of your favorite recipes that you're like going to continue to go back to?
the tofu scramble is one of my huge ones. Like, I'm a breakfast person in general, so it's been a lot of the breakfast meals for me. But the tofu scramble, the overnight oats, there's like a cinnamon and maple flavored one, like just obsessed with, and the pancakes are really good too.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Um, but yeah, like even just some of the dinners, there's one that I'm with the soba noodles and tofu, and I don't know
Yeah.
what they eat, but I'm just impressed at the flavors in some of these dishes. Um, and using all natural ingredients too. Like, there's nothing processed in anything. And
Yeah.
and for these meals to feel filling and um yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. So I love to ask you. So obviously, 25 pounds is a pretty significant difference in your body and your body composition. What are some of the changes that you've noticed in your life from having this new body, from being lighter? What are things that, again, it could be a physical thing or a non-physical thing?
A lot of non-physical things have happened for me. One is like, I always had like chronic low back pain and stiffness for years. I've had 1 or 2 days in the last 4 months that I've had this a bit of stiffness. And that's kind of gone. My sleep has improved, getting better quality sleep. My skin has like cleared up. My digestion is a lot better. I'm less in like less inflammation. I never feel full after a meal. Like full in the sense like
Bloated.
bloated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so many positives. So many positives. Uh,
What's the ones that you're the most excited about? So I, like, as a guy, I get it. You walk into the mirror sometimes, you're just like, "Shit, look at that tricep. Oh, I got this vein sticking out." Like, what's the thing that got you the most excited when you got this lean?
Okay, so physically, it has been. I do like vascularity, so like I have this one vein on my arm that is starting to form. that
Yeah.
is something that I really like. I'm starting to get like definition in my arms, and at 42, I'm actually getting abs as well. So that's a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
Being like a thicker guy most of my life, I've never really had that tone and definition. So that's probably like the number one. Obviously, is like the physical change. Just
Yeah.
actually see these results and seeing in the mirror like what I knew I could always achieve.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful, man. It's nice when you start to see some striations and some veins and doing some bicep curls. You're like, oh yeah, you start to see everything. It's definitely a guy thing. I think girls
That's
like
for
care
sure.
too much of
Yeah,
vascularity.
I know.
Um, so out of all these changes, so we're right now, I think you're starting reverse dieting, right? You're in your reverse dieting process.
I, I think yeah, I'm just starting into it.
Okay. So you're like 1 or 2 weeks in, right? You're not too
Yeah.
far into it. So how you find that so far? And it's not big of a change, but again, we're starting to increase your food.
So actually, we're starting next week, so
Okay.
I haven't actually started into it just yet.
Okay, cool. So I'll tell you what's coming, which is really great. It's like a lean bulk ultimately, right? So you get to stay this lean, but pack on more muscle, and we're going to be able to add like genuinely about like 800 to 1,000 plus calorie of food intake to what you're currently eating for you to
Yeah, I'm
stay
not
this
there
lean.
yet.
It's a lot. It's a lot of food, right? But it's the same process as again what you did before for the fat loss. When you mentioned like, hey, like it was less food than what I was used to, I was a little bit hungry. But I know for a fact that your stomach got used to it and it was like, oh, like this is the food I'm eating today. I'm not hungry anymore. Right. The stomach will adjust to the amount of food that you eat. So if you eat like a bird over time, eventually your stomach is going to be that size. So if you eat anything that was like what you were eating before normally, you'll feel stuffed, right? You won't be able to consume all the food. So we're just re-stretching out your stomach as well through reverse dieting, not like in a physical way where your stomach sticks out, but you're just so you're able to handle more food per meal.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to increasing my calories a little bit. The last part was honestly the toughest mentally on me, just having
Yeah.
that a caloric intake. But again, the support that I've had from Joey and the community has been great to just help me keep going.
Yeah. It's a part of the game. So I would say like you're leaner than a lot of the members that we have. Because you wanted to get this lean, but not everyone wants to be that lean. When you want to push or like a leaner physique, the calories have to be a little bit lower because we have to push the boundaries of what the body needs. So hunger is not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
I put that out. People was like, I hate being hungry. I was like, well, then you get to be overweight because you're going to eat all the time, right? Hunger is not a bad thing at all. You need to learn to be able to master it. Do you think that's something that kind of happened throughout the process? Like when hunger came, you're like, it's not a big deal anymore. I'm just gonna like drink some water or wait for the next meal. Or compared to before, where it's probably like, I hate this. This is not fun.
And that's what I noticed too is like sometimes when I was really feeling hungry, I also would think, and I'm like, you know what, I actually haven't consumed as much water as I should have today.
Mm-hmm.
And even just consuming that water, I know it's just water, but it gives you that fuller feeling.
Yeah.
So even that has helped too.
I'd love to ask you a question about like success in this area of your life. So you mentioned like having almost like a six pack at 42. When's the last time you had one?
I sort of had this about 19. I was around 19. So
Okay.
a long time
24
ago.
years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. What is it just a start? Because once you reverse diet, you can do another mini cut and get even leaner if you want to without having to go as low in calories once you're done reverse dieting. But
Can't
you
wait
can
for
get, yeah, exactly. You get to be like even leaner and then get to eat more food to maintain it. So when people talk to me about like listening to these podcast episodes, they're always like, what's the thing that made this person successful in their transformation, right? Because obviously it sounds badass. 42, almost got abs now, great physique, crazy transformation, had some struggles, kind of overcame them. But I'm also always curious as to like, what do you think made you successful in this transformation? Right. We were just here to guide and support, right? So it was an internal thing too. Like, what do you think made you follow through and go through the whole process, even though there was bumps in the roads, even though there was challenges that showed up?
it honestly was mindset. for me. I've struggled with, you know, mental health issues throughout my life. And for me, I sort of always tend to focus on the negative. And for this process, I really had to change my mindset and be like, you know what, this is gonna be a struggle, but it's really helped getting the results and just continuing to push through instead of giving up. That's probably been the biggest game, is the whole mental shift. And that is worth its weight in gold to me.
Yeah. I remember we talked about mental health, our first conversation. Do you find that that's changed now?
Oh my God, tenfold. I feel like a different person. I haven't been anxious in a long time. I really also including the meditation into my daily routine. I'd say like 4 out of 7 days of the week, like
Yeah, which
including
is good.
is been a huge shift as well. And I literally only do 10 minutes. I do 10 minutes. It's not like some crazy half an hour, hour long thing. Just 10 minutes and being consistent with it and just slowing down and focusing on my breathing. That's all I really do for meditation, but it's changed me dramatically. And then when I start to feel like I'm getting a little bit worked up, I think I look back and I realize I haven't taken that time out for myself. And then
Yeah.
I focus and, you know, make sure I put that back into my routine again.
Yeah. I think the getting in shape and doing what's necessary to get in shape addresses a lot of the thing that causes people to struggle with mental health, right? I think it's really hard to have mental health issues when you're in top shape and you're healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're fueling your body foods that will make you feel good. You're moving in a way that makes you feel good. And so I'm gonna say it's a solution for all of it, but there's a pretty clear path to wanting to be in a better place from a mental health standpoint. Get in shape. Therefore, you have to eat good food. You have to be disciplined. You have to do all these things, right? And it just changes the game for everyone.
And I never really equated like especially the food aspect for mental health, but it's really been a game changer for me.
Yeah. Matt, I can tell you, if you go and have like a Beyond Burger with some vegan ice cream and some cookies tonight, I promise you tomorrow you're gonna be anxious, a little bit depressed because your body's so fine-tuned now, like you're gonna feel it right away.
Yeah, and you know, I did have a moment a few weeks ago where I was away at a friend's cottage, and I actually did have a few things.
Yeah.
And the next day, I felt terrible. I
Yeah.
felt terrible. I'm like, I don't want to do this again because I thought I wanted it, and when I had it, I actually felt worse. So it wasn't even worth the cheap meal, you know, like. So
Yeah.
enough to just again help me refocus, get back on track.
Yeah. And that's the cool part, right? Is when there's pain, we don't want to revert back to it. But the
Yeah,
thing is, if you always eat some form of like food that's not that great for you, right? I don't put food like as good or as bad, but there's food that clearly make you feel good and food that doesn't. But if
yeah,
you always eat food that doesn't make you feel good, then you don't know that that's the norm. So when you eat it, you're just continuing to feel the norm that you had, which was not that great. Once you
yeah,
fine tune your body, kind of like what you did, and you just throw in a bit of poison, whatever it is, alcohol, cookies, ice cream, whatever, then you're like, oh damn, like you feel in your body, you feel sore, you feel bloated, you feel like puffy. Did you notice your mind going more towards negative thoughts that next day?
oh yeah, like I had a mental fog. I just like I felt lethargic. I didn't feel good at all.
Yeah,
Um, and
good. It's a good lesson.
yeah, like it was almost like, you know, I'm kicking the butt to just keep going.
Yeah. So I would love to ask you. So there's people that listen to this podcast that are current members, some that are past members, some that are potentially people that want to work with us. I would love for you to speak to the current members, right? And the people that are on their journey. If you had a piece, like one or two pieces of advice for them to, again, I say the end goal is not to be a success story, but obviously I love bringing on members that are successful in their transformation because they stuck with it, right? The difference between someone that does or doesn't, that has a success or not, is whether they stuck with it or they didn't stick with it, regardless of the timeline, right? Because everyone can get there, just about the timeline. So what piece of advice would you have for them to be more successful in their transformation?
I think the biggest thing is just to trust the process. Because obviously you guys have designed everything that the results are not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take time. There's gonna be hardships, but I think being consistent has been the key to my success. And even when I'm not having a good day, everybody has bad days, but I try and learn from that and have my moment and then push harder the next day, and just to reach out, reach out to the community, the people in the in the app, and just, I think, reaching out to somebody and letting them know that they're having a struggle is enough to maybe get the support that they need to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love all of these points, but the first one specifically of trust the process, because for the people that listen to these episodes where I bring on members, it's always the same thing at the end of it. Trust the process. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, right? Obviously it works. So trusting the process is huge. So I appreciate you also acknowledging that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical coming into it. My mindset was like, oh, it's just another thing after my money, whatever. And very quickly that whole perspective changed. And I realized that this is like nothing else I've ever seen before. And there were so many components for me with having the community and the meetings and just everything set up in the app, and like everything was thought of. And so that for me was enough to want me to keep going.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Was this worth the investment for you?
100%. 100%.
I was like to ask that to people because I know we're not cheap in what we do, because we do take care of everything. Like literally we think of and take care of everything. I know we're not cheap, but I was like to ask, like, if it is not cheap, was it worth it for you?
Yeah. And once I got into the program, like I was nervous as hell, and I thought, oh God, like, but when I realized I was getting the results, I had access to everything that I needed. It was all laid out for me. I didn't think twice about the money. After like a week, it was out the window.
Yeah.
And really, like an investment in myself, like you can't really put a price on that.
Yeah. And ultimately it got you skin in the game to stick with it.
Yeah. And it set me up for life too, right? It's helped me form new habits. So that even when I do leave the program, like I still have months and months of new habits that I've formed and to take with me to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, once you do reverse dieting, there's a new set of skills you're going to learn, because in the future, if ever you want to do another cut, you know exactly how to do it. You'll know exactly how to get yourself out of it and speed up your metabolism. And in that way, you can literally train for whatever it is that you want next, right? Because I'll tell you one thing, once you finish reverse dieting and you have this body, which you're going to be like, have a bit more muscle mass when you're done reverse dieting, because it's like a lean bulk. Yeah. Once you have that body, like that is taken care of. You don't need to worry about this anymore. And then there's something in your head that's going to come up, or maybe already has, of like, oh, that's the next thing I want to do. That's the next thing I want to train for. You already have an idea as to what that is?
I'd love to actually try like a triathlon.
Nice.
Yeah, I've never really been a runner or swimmer, but I'd love to do something different outside of the gym as well.
Yeah.
And swimming is a weakness of mine, but it's something that with time and practice you get better at. So something that I'd like to work on as another goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can also help you out with that part, that. But I would say start with a sprint on your race.
Yeah.
Right? Don't do what I did. Let's do a half Ironman or a full Ironman. No, like start with the sprint, see if you like it. If you like it, then maybe try to do Olympic distance, because you can do the sport pretty cheap. But once you kind of get kicked into it, you're like, oh, this bike, I want this bike. I want these rims. I want these wheels. I want this swimsuit. I want these. Man, you can spend so much money on triathlon. So just, try a small one, see if you like it. It's such an interesting feeling to go from horizontal to like vertical on a bike, right? You like horizontal and you swim and you got to run out to your bike and you're all disorientated. And then going from a bike and biking hard to like running, your legs are just fried. And it's such an interesting feeling. You feel nothing for the first like mile.
I'll start small for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, Trevor, any words of wisdom you'd like to share for people that are, again, that are on the fence of changing their body, their health, right? Not saying to say working with us, but for them to make the commitment to themselves that they want to change.
Yeah, I mean, I think just committing to yourself is hard to do, and I think, like myself, I made excuses for a long time, and when I finally just said enough's enough, like I want to live a long and healthy life, and if you're sitting on the fence, I think it's worth it to anybody. Like, and for my mental health has improved like tenfold for somebody who was depressed and sitting on the couch and unmotivated to where I'm at right now, where I just don't stop. Like, and I'm older than I was when I was feeling not great. It's worth your weight in gold for your own health to just do something for yourself.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what are those excuses that you're telling yourself as to why you couldn't do this?
Didn't have the money, wasn't good enough. Like, I think I was undeserving of it. Like, didn't think I was up for the challenge. Like, just a lot of negative mindset, and it was something that I really needed to work on the most.
Yeah. Do you think that you're deserving now and you could take on the challenge?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I still have a lot of struggles, but seeing this commitment that I made to myself and my own health, it's actually changed my perspective greatly.
Okay. Isn't there like, I would like to ask you this, because I've shared this concept multiple times with people, but let me just ask you directly from your own experience. So I think there's like fake level of confidence, which is nice clothes, nice watch, whatever, right? And you're like, I'm dressed nice, I'm this person. But then there's a real level of confidence, which is I tell myself that I'm going to do something, and then I actually do it, like transforming your body. And you're like, damn, like I can do this. What else can I do? There's like this internal confidence of like, I can follow through on the thing that I said that I'm going to do. Did you notice that shift in confidence change when you did that?
Still happening, to be honest. Like, I haven't really been a confident guy most of my life. But this has helped me to sort of step outside of my comfort zone, and push myself. Even coming on this podcast today, I was super hesitant in doing it. I'm not one that likes to be in front of the cameras. I'm more of a behind the scene guy. And initially when you reached out, I thought, in my instant mind was like, no, I can't do this. And then I was like, I sat with it for a day, and I was like, you know what, this is going to help build my confidence by showing up to something that is really a struggle for me.
Yeah.
And speaking vulnerably and putting myself out there for other people to see is not something that comes easy for me. So even showing up to this was a huge struggle, but you know what? I made it through, and that helps to build my confidence to keep going in other aspects as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm really proud of you for jumping on the podcast. You did an awesome job, by the way. And I know you're going to get a lot of love from the people listening, because people are going to connect with what you shared. And I think that's the power of sharing our own specific story. Again, you've impacted a lot of people within the program. You don't even know about it. The people that are going to listen to this podcast that are going to be connecting to your story and kind of where you're at, where you went through and where you're at now, there's going to be hundreds and thousands of them. Right.
You just give me shivers.
Right. But that's the cool part of sharing, right? Because a lot of people, we think I understand there's a fear, because I used to have that, a fear of kind of like of sharing and putting myself out there. But
Yeah.
eventually just realized that, man, it's a disservice to the world for me to not share my story. Because you wouldn't be here if I didn't do that, if I didn't share my story. Right? None of our amazing people that we've transformed their life would be there if I wasn't like, hey, this is my story. Here's why I want to help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's been stepping outside my comfort zone in a lot of areas of my life, but the growth that comes from that is what I need as well. So
Yeah. Man, I'm very proud of you. I'm very excited for you because again, I remember our first conversation. You had your hat down, you were standing like this on front of the camera, and I all bright and happy, standing tall, chest sticking out. So I'm very excited for you for again what's coming with the reverse dieting and what you're going to create for yourself after.
well, I can't thank you enough for this community that you've created. It's really helped change my life.
Oh, that makes me really happy to hear. And again, man, massive thank you for taking the time to jump on the podcast, for stepping out of your comfort zone to be here and share your story. And for the people listening, if you want more information about kind of what we're doing and how we help Trevor transform, there's just a link down below in the show notes. You can book a call directly with me, kind of like the one that I had with Trevor when we originally spoke. And I was like, Trevor, you need to do this. We need to change your life. And ultimately, look at him now, right? So the link is down below in the show notes. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you for having me.